And folks are coming equipped with like snorkel equipment and stuff like that. And there was talk about 350 surf riders organized by the Surf Rider Foundation to be doing the action at Ocean Beach. I think with they're having technical problems about logistics, so they might just come with their surfboards to Justin Herman Plaza. Either way, all of these actions are going to be converging at Justin Herman Plaza at 3 p.m. We're doing a mass readout, co-sponsored by Youth Speaks, so they're going to bring the green team of youth poets. And then it's intergenerational, so half the poets are going to be from Youth Speaks, half the poets are going to be organized by Rebecca Solnit, David's sister, who is a well-known author and poet. She's going to bring out some of the older, more well-known poets and authors from the day, including probably some City Lights folks. So we're going to do, instead of just boring political speakers, well, boring some people, we're going to have a poetry readout. And then we're also going to be doing a big visual build, including that parachute that we used last month. And then we're going to actually create, we just came up with this idea, but building a formation of an eye around the center of the parachute. So it's kind of like politicians, specifically Obama, we're watching you, and we're keeping the eye while you're going into these climate debates. So it should be pretty exciting. We're also going to have an action station there, which we're going to take signups for Beyond Talk, as well as we're going to have a phone booth where people can, it's going to be like a cardboard box, where people can step in. We're going to have some prepaid phones where they can make calls to either their legislator or someone else. So that's what's going to happen on October 24th. You can definitely support either coming to our organizing meetings or just attending and outreaching for us. We have beautiful postcards for you, and we have extras, so please take some if you could take them to your offices or just hand out to friends and family. And we also have posters. And then after the 24th, our energy, and we're starting those conversations now, but our energy will be shifted to November 30th, which is the day was chosen because it's the anniversary of the Seattle WTO protests 10 years ago. But we're kind of using it strategically since it's right before the Copenhagen talks as a way to bring more awareness to the grassroots movements happening leading up to Copenhagen. And this is actually a lot of national organizing happening. We're going to be throwing our own local event, which we're talking about now about what that will be and what our messaging will be. But there's also actions happening that are being organized by the Mobilization for Climate Justice nationally and some other groups too. So that's going to be a future action that you'll be able to plug into. We just don't have details yet, but that's just keeping an ear out for that. Beyond that, well, some of us will be going to Copenhagen and organizing there. And then from there on, it's just continuing our efforts and our campaign, like I said, towards the U.S. Social Forum and maybe beyond that. We have an announcement email list that you can sign up for. We'll send out announcements. If you're interested in organizing, you can also give me your email, specifically to organize the October 24th action. You can give me your email there, and I can put you on our list for that action.
And we have brought a lot of these cards, and we weren't expecting to go back with take them back with us. What we've been asking people to do is take large handfuls, not just one or two, but enough to hand out in your neighborhood, in your schools, in your workplaces, and to all the other public events you may be going to in the coming weeks.
Questions? Questions? Sure. Here's our poster too.
I have a question. What's the expectation about what's going to go down in Copenhagen?
Well, there's, as you well know, we here locally here in the U.S., there are very low expectations for any kind of climate legislation before Copenhagen at this point. And the entire world, this new administration in place, is looking at what can come out of a U.S. offer on the table. There's a lot of skepticism. In the most recent round of negotiations around Kyoto in Bangkok, the U.S. team has gone back to the kind of offers that the Bush administration demonstration we're making. Basically suggesting that a new regime be put forward where differentiated responsibilities are shelved and they look at individual nation-specific policies that totally undermines the Kyoto process. Not that the Kyoto process from a justice-based perspective is the best deal, but the southern nations, especially the most heavily impacted nations, are seriously threatening to walk at this point and do not expect the African continent as a bloc has basically indicated that there's a high likelihood of them walking in Copenhagen. So there's all kinds of background reasons for this. A big part of it is how much money the Annex 1 countries or the big, the G20 is going to put on the table for technology transfer, for clean development pathways for the developing world. And right now, nothing really substantive has been offered. But even more, I think, disconcerting is the fact that the U.S. still does not want to make any commitment to any hard reductions targets. And so the way we are, grassroots movements are looking at this is that, again, Copenhagen's not going to, as much as there's a lot of hype about the need to renew a new protocol past 2012, that it doesn't end at Copenhagen. In fact, grassroots movements have to start looking beyond Copenhagen to where can we reasonably expect our voices to be represented at any national or international forum. So with that in mind, what we would like to see is more and more people out in the street, more people at the actions, and as some of you who are old enough like me to remember the battle in Seattle, there's a very close parallel that back then I think there was a recognition that the corporate agenda had so dominated the trade arena that people needed to step up and really expose how the trade arena was going against all democratic principles. And that's where we're at with the climate arenas. And I'd encourage all of you to come out when you hear the call for a big action on November 30th, whether it's wherever it's being held in the city.
So maybe a little bit of a difference. So we're not trying to shut down talks, we're trying to lock them in. The talks.
What do you see as the direct impact of local actions, like the ones you're talking about, on federal and global talks? I know this is sort of a complex question, and I'm asking this as, from a friendly point of view, as also being an activist. What do you really see as the impact of what we're doing locally on the federal and the global talks, especially here in California, where Barbara Boxer is actually already one of the better actors in the Senate?
I think it's being visible, obviously, but not just for ourselves as like our individual goals as an organization, but I think, and even locally here, I think what we're trying to do in solidarity with the national movement and international movement is trying to build this street heat towards these towards these political debates. So to me, it's really showing that the West Coast is visible, that the grassroots movement is opposing visibly and strongly what's going on politically in the Senate and at Copenhagen. And then and we definitely are keeping in contact with the national movement, and a lot of us are also talking to the Climate Justice Now folks who are part of the international actions happening. And so I think it's like seeing everybody connecting and all these little fires, public street heat fires popping up. It really helps.
I think that kind of says it. It's really historically, when I think back as to what kind of change direct action has brought about in terms of social movements, when we look at the anti-nuclear movement, and when you actually study what happened, what really shelved all the nuclear power plant proposals, it was really it was the masses that really came out and opposed the massive subsidies to nuclear power that were being made up to the 80s that forced the government to back out of a lot of these dirty deals.